Well, we're delighted to have you here, and especially with Akiko conducting the San Antonio Symphony in an all-Baroque early music concert. It's timeless music. Timeless music. It's entitled The Royal Fireworks Music with the San Antonio Symphony. You're going to also be singing, and you're a countertenor. So why don't we talk about what you're singing?
Sure, absolutely. So basically, San Antonio is a fantastic city, and it seems to be thriving in lots of different ways. And one of them is, here we are, this wonderful Riverwalk, amazing Tobin Center, gorgeous cathedral downtown, San Fernando Cathedral, and Akiko and the symphony have taken a brave sort of step. They've decided to do a Baroque series, so including in this in the symphony calendar a certain number of concerts that specialize in Baroque music, which I think it's great because Baroque music has terrific melodies, and once people actually get to know it, they fall in love with it, and to sort of take a risk like that, scheduling in Baroque programs is a fantastic thing. So I say bravo to the symphony for doing that, and it's because of that I'd heard about the success that the symphony was having. So I started talking with Akiko and about different sort of ideas, and so that's how I'm here. And we sat down and thought, well, we looked at the program. As you said, there's Handel's music for the Royal Fireworks, or Royal Music for the Fireworks, and a Pergolesi piece. I thought, what would work well? We know the concert's going to be in San Fernando Cathedral, so we went through lots and lots of different options, which was a really fun process, and we came out with 4 pieces.
4 arias.
Yeah, so we decided to do something quite dramatic. There's a Handel opera, Tolomeo, and there's a scene where he's angry at everybody, his mother, his sister, his brother, and so we're doing this crazy moment, this little scenette from that. In umano fratel, barbara madre, ingiusto raspre, this whole thing. And then, in contrast to that, we have a beautiful little piece by Erlebach, who's not, we all know Bach. If you talk about Baroque music, you say, well, who do you know? Well, most people will say, well, we know them, Handel's Messiah, or a Bach or a Torrio. But Erlebach is really beautiful. It's German Baroque music, and it's this little song, Trocknet euch, which is it's lovely. Now, what else do we have on the program? I came across this piece called Regina Coeli, a setting of Regina Coeli, and it was, the composer is down as being Leopold I.
A king.
A king of Bohemia, apparently. Now, whether it was attributed to him, or whether he actually wrote it, is
or
a different
paid
matter.
For it.
Exactly, exactly. So we're doing this piece, Regina Coeli, and it's got, what's nice about it, it's got some beautiful instrumental sections, some florid moments and some sort of stately moments, and so we're going to do that. And then, I have to say, this next piece is just one of my favorites. It's Handel wrote "Eternal Source of Light Divine," which
it's done a lot.
Yeah, I really love this piece. It's like a duet between the voice and a trumpet, and I always imagine, and what we'll be going for, is the sun rising, mists on a river, and the sun rising, and the celebration of a new day, and a celebration of our faith, whatever it may be, or a celebration of life, an eternal source of light divine. So very much looking forward to singing that.
Well, oftentimes you hear it with soprano or alto soprano, and now we're going to hear it with countertenor. So that leads me into wanting to know, why are you a countertenor? What is a countertenor? For those,
why are you a countertenor?
For the great unwashed.
All right.
Tell us what a countertenor is all about.
All right. So, well, firstly, going back, Eternal Source of Light Divine was written for a countertenor. It's like a high tenor countertenor role, but then it's really beautiful, so all the sopranos want to do it as well. So, firstly, what is a countertenor? What is this range?
Sure.
And basically, when a guy's voice breaks, he has a lower register, la da da, and he has a higher register, ba da da. Now, once he comes to grips with those two registers, you know, he can decide whether he wants to develop the higher register or not. Now, it was popular in the Baroque times to develop this higher falsetto register, and then it went out of vogue by, you know, early Mozart onwards. And then around the 1940s, Alfred Deller started singing countertenor, and you know, sort of brought it back into vogue to a point now where there are lots and lots of countertenors, and there's different types of sounding countertenors. Before, it used to be just a very straight sound. Now there are countertenors that sound like, you know, mezzos with lots of vibrato, and there's mezzos that sound like countertenors. I mean, this Opera News interviewed me on this very point, and it was, you know, I said basically it comes down now to, you know, what particular voice do you like, you know, person to person, because the crossover between, you know, mezzos, contraltos, and countertenors, there's lots of different ways of singing those particular ranges. So as a result of which, yeah, it's an individual sort of choice. For the general public, I mean, it's all around us. There's nothing new about the countertenor voice. You can see it in lots and lots of different pop artists. You know, from
Bobby McFerrin.
Queen, Bobby McFerrin, Justin Timberlake, Bieber,
Jersey Boys.
Jersey Boys. So, you know, what is a countertenor? There's nothing particularly new about being a countertenor. So whether you, again, going back, your voice breaks as a man, you've got this lower register, the higher register, and you decide whether, you know, you decide if you want to develop that high register or not.
Well, I wanted to see you online, and lo and behold, there you were at St. Thomas Church, which I attended when I used to live in New York. What's it like experiencing that wonderful church, that huge venue that must carry the voice straight up into the sky? John Scott, was he the music director there?
Yeah. So, well, you know Jerry Hancock.
Jerry Hancock, Texas native.
He then, when he left, John Scott, who came from St. Paul's Cathedral in London, and he took over. And unfortunately, he passed away last year. But he was an absolutely fantastic musician, organist, you know, conductor, composer. And I worked a lot with him there. So I did the Messiah a few times, St. John Passion, and he accompanied me in lots of recitals. And he was the most amazing man. Now, the best experience, I suppose, well, there's lots of amazing experiences. When you were singing St. Thomas, it's a wonderful building. As a soloist, they have you sitting on the front row. Then you stand up, turn around, and sing out to the people. You know, and behind you is this wall of red and white, and you know the choir's in its cassocks, and this highly trained, you know, boys' choir, you know, and when they start singing, "Worthy is the Lamb" in the Messiah, it's just, you know, you get goosebumps. It's amazing, and then, you know, the final amens in the Messiah again, just phenomenal, and just having that sound behind you, and it's a great driver.
Yeah, you can wait outside in the snow for a long time to get in to hear that music.
Yes.
And people do.
Yeah.
You know, I also Googled around and found you performing a Handel's Saul, in which you performed the role of Jonathan. And I didn't hear you sing so much, but I saw you die. And if there's a better death scene anywhere online, I don't know about it. And it doesn't exist, because you die in a death that's so real. How did you work that one out?
Lots of practice.
Lots of practice.
So that was at Trinity Church Wall Street puts on this festival. Julian Wachner, great composer and conductor, puts it on every year. And they use both Trinity Church and the St. Paul's 9/11 Memorial Chapel. And we did it in there. And I was actually singing, I sing tenor as well as countertenor. And I was singing the role of Jonathan. And yes, we had this strangulation scene. So
it takes you 40 seconds or a minute
me and Saul
to die.
Sort of we were, yeah, it was quite. And then I had to, after passing away in such a dramatic fashion, I had to lie there during the interval. So people just throw things at me and see if I blink. But yeah, wonderful baritone. Crumbs. Now, what was his name? I know Anthony Roth-Costanzo was David, and
Herbert.
Saul,
You said, didn't you say Herbert?
Yes, Christopher Herbert.
Yeah.
God, that's yeah. He was fantastic and wonderful to. He's got a lovely voice, but also working through that sort of thing, you have to be really careful about, where you put your thumbs and everything else. And
he had his thumbs on your throat for
but
a long time.
It looked like it. It was actually, yeah, it was a lot of planning.
Getting back to the program then that appears on May the 29th in the San Fernando Cathedral with the San Antonio Symphony in this all Baroque program.
Yeah.
Expand on exactly what we're going to be hearing.
So we're doing, those 4 works. The scene from Handel's Saul, a dramatic scene, Recit and an aria, Inumano Fratel and Stille Amare, the beautiful Eternal Source of Light Divine by Handel, which is like a voice and trumpet duet with this shimmering sort of orchestra underneath. There's a composer called Erlebach who wrote this beautiful song called Trocknet euch, which we're including. He's lesser known, of course, than Bach. And it's great. It's just a really beautiful melody. So it's wonderful we're having the opportunity to do that. And the 4th song is Regina Coeli, attributed, the composer is meant to be Leopold I, who was a king. He was the king of Bohemia. And
maybe like the Austro-Hungarian Empire.
Exactly.
To that.
So yes, I think we were talking, earlier, and we, did he pay for it? Did he actually write it? Who knows? But it's attributed to him. When Akiko and I were looking at different options for this, and we wanted things to go well with the Pergolesi Olympiad, and then the, the fireworks music, which is, big and, so we chose these songs together, and these editions are actually being written for symphonies and for large orchestras, so it worked really well. 2 friends of mine, Danny Johnson, who runs Texas Early Music Project out of Austin, and a great friend of mine, Stephen Mercurio, who's a wonderful conductor and composer, and he did three of the editions. We recently did a recording with the Czech National Symphony of a setting of Eugene O'Neill's poem, The Last Will and Testament of Emblem O'Neill, and Stephen made it into a CD in a big symphony called A Grateful Tale. And it's a stunning piece of work. And so anyway, I sang this big old baritone tenor solo monologue, basically, going through the different parts of the will of this dog, bequeathing his collar and different things like that. It's really sweet. If you, it's a real tearjerker as well. So, yeah, Grateful Tale.
Well, 1685 yielded Scarlatti, Bach, and Handel. Imagine a birth year like that. Changed music for all time. And we're so delighted to have you here in San Antonio. So we all know that Baroque music is having a huge resurgence worldwide. Is Texas involved in this? Is it leading the way at all?
Actually, Texas is really leading the way in a big way. Baroque music, as you say, has become very, very popular over the last 15, 20 years. And one of the reasons why, the reason why I'm here is, Akiko and the Symphony are putting on this Baroque series. And I think it's fantastic that, they're doing that. This is one example of many different groups in Texas who are doing, early music and Baroque music. In Houston, you have Ars Lyrica Houston, led by Matthew Durst, which is great. You have Mercury Baroque. In Austin, you have Texas Early Music Project with Danny Johnson. You have Ensemble 8, Jim Morrow.
But one thing that they don't have that we have is perhaps the oldest cathedral in the United States, Catholic cathedral, is the San Fernando Cathedral, which is 17th century, right in the Baroque era.
Yeah.
And a small chamber or all-string orchestra or string and winds orchestra sounds like it's 100 musicians.
Yeah.
And it couldn't be a more beautiful place to listen to the Baroque period of music. And you're going to be there front and center.
Well, I have to say, I thoroughly enjoyed singing here in the Tobin Center. I think the acoustic's fantastic. To have the opportunity to sing in San Fernando Cathedral, for me, is absolutely fantastic. So when, Kiko said, we're doing it in the cathedral, what music should we do? For me, I've been looking forward to this, weekend for a long, long time.
Now, when you go back to Bristol, you're going to have some bragging rights. You want to know how? You're not only singing in the San Fernando Cathedral, but in the front of the San Fernando Cathedral are the remains and ashes of the heroes who died at the Alamo.
Wow.
And it's in a sarcophagus there, so labeled. And if the Alamo City is nothing, it's all about the Alamo. So we're going to give you a little primer there.
Well, I'm thoroughly looking forward to that. Now, I'm actually currently living in New York. I'm an American now.
Are you really?
I had a green card for 5 years. So they said, you're becoming an American, and secondly, you're going to sing at your own ceremony. Wow. So I get dragged out to sing the national anthem. Oh, say, can you see? Yeah.
Where did you raise your right hand? Where, in New York?
In New York, yeah.
How many were in the audience in the incoming class of American citizens?
Around 75, 100. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah, it's great.
So beyond the Baroque, there's also different styles of music that you sing, and not the least of which is with one of my heroes, which is Bobby McFerrin, who can come out with all kinds of interesting musical instruments out of his chest. What else are you doing?
Well, firstly, Bobby's excellent. He's phenomenal, and he's a wonderful improviser. And, he did really interesting things as well. He was like one of the directors of the St. Paul Chamber Orchestra, in addition to all the other projects he does. I was very fortunate to sing on one of his albums, Vocabularies, that got nominated for a Grammy, which is great. So styles, me. So I do all kinds of different things. So I've sung on a lot of movies. I've just sang on Zoolander 2, which came out earlier this year.
I saw that you composed some music as well.
Yeah, I've composed the...
Has that been released? Warner Brothers?
Yes.
What's the name of it?
It's called The Mystery of Dante. It's been released in Europe. It hasn't come out in the States yet. Yeah, I signed with EMI Records to the Blue Note Group as a crossover artist. I started writing sort of tunes like in my late teens. They weren't very good. And suddenly I sort of got into this groove, and managed to come out with some good melodies. And yeah, EMI signed me. So I went to Abbey Road, and I did this album. It's meant to be a crossover album. So I did a crossover song called I'll Find a Way to You, which was used for the publicity materials. But if you listen to the album, it's just my name, Ryland Angel. I did like a 40-part Agnus Dei, where I sing all the parts.
Oh, really?
And then like a Salve Regina with a guitarist here in Austin, Rick Del Castillo. And it's a beautiful, setting of Salve Regina. So a lot of the lyrics, are Latin.
Sure.
So yeah, it's a fun album. And then I went off to Sweden and wrote a chant album in the style of Gregorian chant, where again I did all the voices and under the name of Sacred Seven, and a pop album of love songs called Beloved One. So I do different styles.
And in doing so, you don't get typecast in one vein or the other? You're not saying, well, we can't hire Ryland, he's a pop artist. No, we can't hire we're not a pop artist, we need a Baroque singer. Are you scared about that occurring?
Not
Getting
really.
grouped in one or the other?
Because, again, I will do Renaissance music, medieval, contemporary opera, Baroque opera, a Baroque concert like the one we're doing here, pop, and then I will, produce different styles of pop music for other people. And for me and for the way that I work, each of these different styles helps the other styles, and it gives me inspiration for the other styles. The majority of music I've done, of course, is I've done over 50 recordings of Baroque music. So I suppose I got a good foundation in that. But it ends up that, it's you can be doing some pop tune with somebody and you like a certain way that somebody stretches out a note, or it's a new way of thinking about, rubato, and that's what we're doing in this. When we're doing these word accents and word stresses, what we'll be doing on Sunday is, Akiko could be keeping quite a clear rhythmic beat, and I'll just be like, finessing the words around, certain key points in the phrase. And so you can be inspired in many, many different ways.
Well, you're a professional, you know how to do that, and she's a professional.
Well, she's great. She's great. As is Sebastian.
And Sebastian.
They're fantastic, and so I'm just really excited to be back here. I thoroughly enjoy it.
And we're so delighted to have you here in San Antonio, and to be singing an all Baroque program with the San Antonio Symphony in the San Fernando Cathedral on May the 29th. Welcome to San Antonio. You're going to be back again, I'm sure, and we're delighted to have you here. Thank you so much, Ryland.